I thought I had everything. Ethan, pass me the pasta, please, I said, smiling as he handed me the plate. You know I can't resist when you smile like that, he replied, winking, and I felt my chest warm. He had that way of making the world feel safe, like nothing could ever touch us. And then there was Lila. You look tired, she said, handing me a cup of coffee. Don't overwork yourself, okay? Her eyes were soft, caring, and I trusted her like a sister. Life felt effortless, filled with laughter, weekend plans, and late-night talks that stretched into dawn. I told myself I was lucky. I really did. But that evening, a small doubt crept in. I was making tea in the kitchen when I heard voices from the living room. Ethan's laugh, light, familiar, but carrying a tone I didn't recognize, made me freeze. Lila's voice followed, soft and hesitant, yet there was a hint of mischief. Are you sure she won't notice? She asked. I gripped the counter, heart thudding. Ethan chuckled. She's too wrapped up in her work to notice anything. My stomach twisted, but I shook my head. No, I was imagining it. It had to be nothing. Still, I couldn't ignore the unease gnawing at me. Maybe I should just ask them about it, I whispered to myself, pacing the small space. But the words felt heavy on my tongue. I remembered the way Ethan always reassured me. You worry too much, he said last night, brushing my hair back. I'm here. I'd never do anything to hurt you. And Lila had smiled at me that morning, her hand brushing mine in a way that made my heart trust her even more. So I stayed silent, convincing myself I was just overthinking again. Later, we sat together, Ethan and I on the couch, Lila across the room with her sketchbook. I can't believe you finished that project already, Lila said, eyes bright. You're amazing. Ethan leaned back, casual. Yeah, I swear she's been working nonstop. Sometimes I wonder how she even finds time to breathe. I laughed, but it felt hollow now. A tiny voice in the back of my mind whispered warnings I didn't want to hear. I excused myself early, pretending to be tired, and retreated to my bedroom. I could still hear them, quiet murmurs now, laughter soft but deliberate. I lay down, staring at the ceiling, repeating, it's nothing. I'm imagining it. Everything's fine. But deep down I felt the first crack of doubt, the tiniest seed of fear. Something wasn't right and I didn't know how to face it yet. All I knew was that for the first time in a long time, the world I trusted so completely felt just a little unstable. I couldn't breathe when I saw the messages. My hands were shaking as I held Ethan's phone in my lap. Why are there pictures of you and Lila? I whispered, my voice trembling. Ethan looked up, eyes wide, like he'd never expected me to see them. What pictures? He asked smoothly, like I was imagining things. I could feel my heart pounding in my throat. Don't lie to me, Ethan. I saw them. I stopped, choking on the words. He ran a hand through his hair, a practiced gesture I should have recognized. It's not what you think, he said, calm, almost too calm. We were just joking around. You know how close friends can be. My chest tightened. Joking? Kissing and touching isn't joking. Don't you dare say that. I shouted, my voice echoing in the apartment. Lila stepped into the room, looking innocent, holding her sketchbook like a shield. I don't understand. What's going on? She asked softly, her eyes wide. You don't have to play dumb, Lila. I yelled, gripping the phone so hard I thought it might break. I saw the messages. I saw everything. Lila took a step back, trembling. I didn't mean for you to see that. I'm sorry, she stammered. Ethan put a hand on her shoulder. See? She's confused. It's all blown out of proportion. I shook my head violently, tears streaming down my face. Blown out of proportion? How can this ever be just a misunderstanding? I ran to the kitchen, pacing like my thoughts were on fire. I trusted you both. How could you do this to me? I muttered to myself, the words tasting bitter. My father's voice echoed in my mind, calm and steady. What's wrong, sweetheart? I turned to see him standing in the doorway, concern etched across his face. Dad, it's complicated, I said, voice barely a whisper. He came closer, reaching for my hand. You can tell me anything, he said gently. Anything at all. I wanted to, I really did, but the betrayal felt too sharp to put into words. Ethan leaned against the counter, arms crossed, trying to look casual. Look, maybe we should all just calm down, he said, his tone smooth and infuriating. I think you're overreacting. Overreacting? I repeated, incredulous. I found proof, Ethan. Real proof. Lila's eyes filled with guilt, but she didn't speak. It's complicated, Ethan said again, trying to justify it. I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. Complicated? No, it's simple. You lied. Both of you lied. And I believed you. I slammed the fridge door, feeling my anger burn through the shock. I can't do this, I whispered almost to myself. I trusted you. I loved you, and you ruined everything. My father's hand on my shoulder was steady, grounding me, but I pulled away slightly, needing space to breathe, to think. Lila moved closer, cautiously trying to speak. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said softly, but her words sounded empty against the jagged pieces of my heart. I sank onto the floor, phone still in hand, and whispered to the empty room. How could I have been so blind? I could feel my chest tightening, the betrayal slicing through me, leaving a hollow ache. I didn't know if I wanted to scream or cry or vanish completely. All I knew was that nothing would ever feel the same again. And somewhere deep down, a small furious part of me whispered that I would have to decide whether to confront them further, or let silence be my weapon. I avoided everyone that week. Calls went unanswered, messages ignored. Hey, are you okay? Maya asked when I finally showed up at work, her brow furrowed. I forced a smile. I'm fine. Just tired. She didn't buy it. You've been off. Come on, you can talk to me. I shook my head, gripping my coffee cup like it was my lifeline. I don't think talking will help right now. You don't have to deal with it alone, she said softly. I know it's hard, but shutting everyone out won't make it go away. Her eyes searched mine, patient, warm. I looked down at the table, thinking about Ethan's smile, the way he used to brush my hair back, the way I trusted him completely. I just feel like everything's falling apart. I admitted, voice barely audible. It's not fair, Maya. I don't know how to fix it. Maya reached across and touched my hand. You can fix it. You just have to start with yourself. Don't let them control how you feel. Don't let it take you down. Her words hit me harder than I expected. Could I actually do that? Could I move past them, past the betrayal, and be stronger? Later, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at my phone. Maybe I should make them pay, I muttered almost to myself. I imagined Ethan losing everything, Lila regretting what she'd done, the satisfaction of seeing them falter. But then I shook my head. No, that's not me. I can't let revenge become the only thing I live for. The thought made me feel both weak and determined. I wanted justice, but I didn't want to lose myself in hate. I closed my eyes and let my mind drift back to happier times. Ethan laughing as he spun me around in the living room. Lila and I staying up until dawn, gossiping about everything and nothing. I could almost smell the warm coffee we used to share, hear the music from late-night drives. Those memories cut like a knife, reminding me of what I had lost, but also why I couldn't let it define me. The next day at work, Maya noticed me again. You okay today? She asked, a little teasing edge in her voice. I smiled faintly, a spark of determination flickering. Better. I think I just needed a moment to breathe. She nodded, satisfied. Good. Now get out there and show them you're stronger than this. I laughed softly, almost at myself. She didn't know how much I needed those words, but they sparked something inside me. I wasn't ready to be happy again, but I could start taking back control. I started making small plans, little things I could do to reclaim my life. Organizing my schedule, focusing on work, exercising, even redecorating my apartment a little. If they think I'll just crumble, they're wrong. I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. The anger and heartbreak were still there, simmering just beneath the surface, but now I had a sense of direction. I wouldn't let them win, not entirely. That night I sat by my window staring at the city lights. I can do this, I told myself. One step at a time. I knew it wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks, moments when I wanted to scream or break down. But somewhere deep inside I felt the tiniest spark of strength, a quiet determination to survive. And maybe one day to thrive again. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Did everyone really see those messages? I whispered to myself, voice shaking as I scrolled through my phone. Ethan's betrayal wasn't private anymore. He had somehow made it public, and now colleagues, friends, even strangers were whispering. You're kidding, I muttered, heart pounding. My coworker Jake stopped by my desk. Hey, you okay? he asked cautiously. I shook my head. No, I'm not okay. Everyone knows. He made sure of that. I found Lila in the break room, leaning casually against the counter as if nothing had happened. We need to talk, I said, my voice tight with anger. She tilted her head, eyes wide. About what? She asked, too innocent, too practiced. Don't play games, Lila. You know exactly what I mean. Everyone saw the messages. The pictures. How could you? I yelled, feeling my chest heaving. Lila crossed her arms, a smug smile forming. I did what I had to do. You can't expect people to follow your rules about my life. My hand shook. This isn't just your life. You destroyed mine. How could you betray me like that? I felt tears prick my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I needed to stay strong, needed to make her see the consequences. She shrugged. I don't regret it. I like him. There's nothing I can do about how you feel. Rage boiled inside me. Nothing you can do? You lied, you cheated, and now everyone's laughing at me. You think that's okay? My voice cracked, but the anger inside gave me a strange sense of liberation. For the first time, I realized I didn't need their approval. I didn't need them to see my pain to reclaim my life. Later that evening, I sat on the couch, my little brother Daniel plopping beside me with his usual cheerful grin. Why are you so quiet, sis? He asked, looking up at me with those innocent, unknowing eyes. I forced a smile. Just thinking, Daniel. He frowned. Thinking about Ethan? My throat tightened. Yeah, thinking about him. And about how some people can hurt others without even caring. Daniel hugged my arm. You're strong, sis. You'll get through this. His words, simple as they were, made my chest swell with a protective, determined feeling. I realized I had to survive, not just for me but for him too. The next day, I confronted Ethan briefly. You've made a mess of everything, I said, keeping my voice steady. He looked at me, calm, almost detached. I didn't make a mess. This happens. People change. I laughed bitterly. Change? You destroyed trust, love, and friendship. And you think this is just life? I turned on my heel, walking away with a new fire burning inside me. Back at work, I kept my head high despite whispers. Hey, don't let them see you sweat, Maya said, giving me a nod. I smiled faintly, a spark of strength flickering inside. Lila avoided my gaze, which felt like a small victory. I won't, I said softly to myself, realizing I had power over my emotions, even if they thought they controlled everything else. That night I stood by my window watching the city lights, thinking about Daniel's words. I can rise above this, I whispered. I'll survive. I'll be stronger. The anger still simmered, but now it was mine to control, not theirs. And for the first time since everything fell apart, I felt a small, steady spark of liberation flicker inside me. I told myself I was done. I can't keep holding on to them, I whispered, staring at my reflection in the mirror. Ethan, Lila, their faces haunted me, but I knew I had to let them go. At work the next morning, Maya noticed my renewed energy. You look different today, she said, a smile tugging at her lips. I shrugged, pretending it wasn't a big deal. Just trying to focus on work. Keep my mind busy. You're stronger than you think, she said, leaning on the edge of my desk. Don't let them control how you feel. You deserve better. I nodded, feeling warmth spread through me. Thanks, Maya. I needed to hear that. She grinned. Good. Now let's get you back on your feet. Her encouragement made me feel lighter, like I wasn't carrying the weight of betrayal alone. Days passed and I immersed myself in projects, deadlines, and hobbies I had abandoned. Look at this progress, I said to Maya one afternoon, showing her my work. She clapped her hands. Finally, you're finding yourself again. I smiled, feeling a spark of pride. For the first time in weeks, I felt capable, in control, like I could reclaim the life I thought was ruined. Then Raphael appeared. Hi, I'm Raphael. I just joined the team, he said, holding out a hand. I shook it, noticing his calm eyes, the way he seemed to measure every word carefully. Nice to meet you. I paused, realizing I wasn't sure how much to reveal. Well, just trying to survive, I guess, I muttered, awkwardly laughing. He tilted his head slightly, a faint smile forming. I understand, he said quietly. There was a strange weight in his gaze, a sense that he recognized pain without needing an explanation. I kept my distance, cautious curiosity simmering beneath the surface. "So, Raphael, what brings you here?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "New opportunities," he replied, eyes steady, "and a chance to start fresh." His words lingered, resonating with me in a way I didn't expect. I felt a pull to trust him, but my heart was still guarded, and I wasn't ready to give it away. That evening I sat at my desk at home, reflecting on everything I had endured. "I won't let anyone manipulate me again," I whispered. The betrayal still stung, but now it fueled a determination I hadn't felt before. I wrote in my journal, listing small goals, new habits, things that would make me stronger. Every line reminded me that I could rebuild piece by piece, until the shattered parts of me became whole again. Maya texted later, "Dinner tomorrow? Celebrate your progress." I smiled, replying immediately, "Absolutely. I could use the company." For the first time I felt a tentative hope, not just survival but growth. And Raphael, he was a mystery, a quiet presence that made me wonder if maybe someday trust could exist again. But for now I would focus on me, my recovery, and my own path forward. I heard it before I saw it. "Did you hear Ethan lost the client?" Someone whispered near the copy machine. I froze, pretending to check my phone. "Yeah, apparently the proposal was a mess," another voice replied. My chest tightened, not with pity but with a strange calm. Later that day Maya leaned over and murmured, "Looks like karma's warming up." I swallowed. "Or maybe it's just coincidence," I said, though part of me didn't believe it. At lunch, Sophie slid into the seat across from me. "So," she said casually, stirring her drink, "Ethan's team is falling apart." I raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" She smirked. "Deadlines missed, arguments everywhere. I almost feel bad." I nodded slowly. "Almost." She laughed, unaware of how closely I was listening. "You know, management's reviewing his past reports. If they dig deep enough, things could get ugly." I kept my face neutral. "That sounds stressful for him." When I returned to my desk, I stared at my screen, my thoughts racing. I didn't do this, I told myself. Not directly. Still, I had mentioned a few details to Sophie weeks ago. Nothing obvious, just enough to spark curiosity. Am I crossing a line? I whispered under my breath. The idea of revenge thrilled and scared me. I didn't want to become someone I couldn't recognize. That evening my phone buzzed. Lila's name flashed briefly before disappearing. "Don't call," I muttered. Minutes later she texted, "Things are falling apart. People are talking." I stared at the message, heart pounding. "That's what lies do," I whispered. I didn't reply. Silence felt stronger than any argument. The next day, Sophie cornered me near the elevators. "You won't believe this," she said eagerly. "Lila contradicted herself in a meeting. Same story, different details." I tilted my head. "That's unfortunate." Sophie leaned closer. "Funny how lies always trip people up." I met her eyes. "Funny," I agreed, though my pulse raced. I hadn't planned this exactly, but I hadn't stopped it either. Alone later, I paced my apartment. Is this revenge, or just truth catching up? I asked myself. I remembered Ethan's voice telling me I was overreacting, Lila's fake innocence. "They made choices," I said out loud. "I'm just stepping aside." Still guilt crept in. What if I'm no better than them? I whispered, sinking onto the couch. At work, whispers grew louder. "Ethan might be transferred," someone said. "Lila's credibility is gone," another replied. Maya caught my eye. "You okay?" she asked gently. I nodded. "I think so. I'm just watching." She studied me. "Just don't let it change you." I exhaled slowly. "That's what I'm afraid of." Later, Sophie sent me a message. "Thanks for listening. Sometimes information just needs the right ears." I stared at the screen, then typed nothing. I placed my phone face down and whispered, "I won't push anymore. If karma wanted to finish the job, I would let it." For now, I chose distance over destruction, control over chaos, and myself over their downfall. Raphael appeared at my desk one morning, his presence calm but steady. "I noticed your report needed some adjustments," he said, sliding a folder toward me. I looked up, a little startled. "Oh, thanks. I thought I had covered everything." He shrugged. "It's good, but there's room to strengthen the numbers." I can show you a few tricks if you want. I hesitated, suspicion tingling in my chest. I don't want you to think I can't handle this on my own, I said cautiously. I'm not saying that, he replied smoothly. I just know the system and how things can get twisted. I can help you navigate it without stepping on anyone's toes. I studied him. There was something quiet in his eyes, like he understood unspoken things. Why are you helping me? I asked, almost afraid of the answer. He smiled faintly. Call it experience. And maybe because I think you deserve it. Over the next few days, Raphael guided me through reports, meetings, and presentations. See here, he said during a call, pointing to a chart. Ethan's recommendations were subtly misleading. If you highlight the right data, it will expose the flaws without making it personal. I nodded, feeling a flicker of relief. I never realized he'd manipulate numbers like that, I muttered. He leaned back. He's good at charm but not substance. People trust appearances more than truth. I swallowed. And he used that against me, in everything. During lunch, we walked through the office courtyard. You've been quiet lately, he observed. How are you holding up? I forced a small smile. Better, I think. I still have moments, but I'm learning to control them. Raphael nodded. That's the hardest part. Staying calm when everything inside you wants to explode. I glanced at him. Have you ever been betrayed? He hesitated, then said softly, yes. And it taught me who I can trust, and who I can't. I felt a shiver run through me. Maybe I could trust him too. Back at my desk, I reflected on the small victories. I did this, I whispered, checking the client's positive response to my revised proposal. I felt proud, capable, in control. Raphael had helped, but it was my effort, my determination, my resilience. Later, he leaned over. You handled that well. I knew you could. I smiled faintly. Thanks. I think I'm starting to see my own strength. That evening, alone in my apartment, I wrestled with thoughts. Should I forgive them? Or just let karma finish the job? I whispered, staring at the ceiling. Ethan's face flashed before me, Lila's smirk. The betrayal still stung, but now I had control. I could choose patience over anger, calculation over chaos. I knew revenge could consume me if I let it, but forgiveness might free me. The next day, Raphael stopped by my desk again. I noticed the email to the client. You handled it perfectly, he said. I exhaled. I had help. He tilted his head. But you made the final call. That's what counts. I nodded, realizing it wasn't just guidance. It was respect, acknowledgement, trust building. By evening, I realized how far I had come. I whispered to myself, I'm learning to stand on my own, to fight with my mind, not my rage. The betrayal still lingered, a shadow, but Raphael's presence, subtle and steady, reminded me that I didn't have to navigate it alone. For the first time, I felt the quiet power of independence mingled with cautious hope. I overheard whispers before I even reached my desk. Did you hear about Ethan? Someone murmured near the coffee machine. I paused, pretending to tie my shoelace. Yeah. I can't believe his promotion got pulled, another replied. My chest tightened, a mix of relief and strange emptiness swirling inside me. I didn't feel victorious, not entirely. It was karma, yes, but it didn't heal the wound completely. Later, Sophie leaned over my desk. Ethan's reputation is in ruins. Lila's lies caught up too, she said, grinning. I nodded silently. They had it coming, I muttered, my voice quieter than I expected. Sophie tilted her head. Funny, isn't it? You almost feel sorry for them at first. I shook my head. Not sorry. Just detached. I've changed. I don't need their downfall to feel better about myself. During lunch, Maya joined me. You're so calm about it, she said, raising an eyebrow. I'd be dancing on their misery. I laughed softly, shaking my head. I thought I'd want that, but it's different. Watching it happen without being involved feels better. She smiled. I get it. You're learning to control your own emotions, not just react. I nodded, staring at my salad, thinking about how far I'd come. Later, at a team meeting, I overheard colleagues whispering again. Ethan's client contracts are being reviewed. It's all falling apart, someone said. I pretended to focus on my notes, letting the words sink in. I didn't intervene. I didn't need to. Karma was working quietly, efficiently. The thrill I expected to feel wasn't there. Instead, a calm clarity took its place. I don't need revenge, I whispered to myself. I just need balance. Back at my desk, Raphael approached. Everything okay? You seem reflective today, he said, hands in his pockets. I looked up, meeting his steady gaze. I'm realizing something, I said slowly. I've been so focused on their mistakes, on anger, that I forgot to focus on me. I'm changing, Raphael. Not just reacting. I'm thinking, controlling, learning. He nodded. That's growth. Not easy, but worth it. I smiled faintly. It feels strange. Satisfying, but also empty in a way I didn't expect. By evening, I wandered through the office hallways, listening to more snippets. Lila's trying to justify herself to HR. It's pathetic, one voice said. I smiled faintly, more for myself than anyone else. They're finally facing consequences, not me doing it for them, I murmured. It was a lesson in patience, in restraint. I didn't need to orchestrate their fall to feel empowered. Witnessing the natural outcome was enough. Later that night, I sat by the window, city lights flickering below. I've been so angry, so focused on them, I whispered, tracing the outline of a notebook in front of me. But I can't let that define me anymore. I'm not just surviving. I'm deciding what kind of person I want to be. The anger and betrayal were still there, simmering beneath the surface, but a quiet moral compass had begun to emerge. For the first time, I felt in control, not just of situations but of myself. As I closed my journal, I whispered to no one in particular. I won't be like them. I'll rise, but on my own terms. And that feels more powerful than any revenge. I wasn't expecting Raphael to stop by my desk that afternoon. Hey, he said softly, leaning slightly against the edge. Can I talk to you for a minute? I nodded, trying to keep my voice steady. Sure, what's up? He hesitated, then took a deep breath. I know you've been through a lot, and I don't want to rush anything, but I like you. I care about you. More than just professionally. My chest tightened, a mix of warmth and panic. I don't know what to say, I admitted, staring down at my notebook. You don't understand. I've been hurt, betrayed. I can't just trust someone that easily. His eyes softened. I know, and I won't ask for blind trust. I just wanted you to know how I feel. I swallowed hard, memories of Ethan flashing in my mind. His lies, his charm. The way I had believed him completely. It's complicated, I whispered. I'm still figuring out how to protect myself. He nodded slowly. I get it. Take all the time you need. His patience calmed me, but it also made me nervous. Could I risk letting someone in again? Could I risk being vulnerable? Just then Nina walked past, waving at Raphael. Hey, mind if I join you? She said brightly, a little too friendly. I forced a smile, stepping back slightly. Raphael gestured to the chair beside me. Sure, come on. Nina plopped down, chatting about work and upcoming events. I felt a flicker of irritation, the subtle tension of jealousy prickling at me. You two seem close, I said carefully, testing my own feelings. Raphael laughed softly. We've known each other a while, but this doesn't change anything with you. I nodded, still unsure, trying to balance my curiosity about him with caution. Later, I walked to the park during my lunch break, replaying the conversation in my head. I can't just ignore him, I whispered. But what if I get hurt again? What if I let someone in and they leave like Ethan? The memories of betrayal clashed violently with the warmth of Raphael's patience. Could trust be rebuilt? Could love exist without fear? I sat on a bench staring at the pond, thinking, maybe I don't need to choose yet, I murmured. Maybe I can be cautious but still open. I remembered how strong I'd become over the past weeks. How I had faced betrayal, professional challenges, and personal growth. I didn't have to rush. I could test the waters, learn to trust slowly, while still protecting myself. When I returned to the office, Raphael was waiting near my desk. How was your walk? He asked. I smiled faintly. Good. Clears my head. He nodded, a hint of understanding in his eyes. Take your time, okay? I'll be here. I exhaled, feeling a small weight lift from my chest. Maybe I didn't need to have all the answers yet. Maybe it was enough to feel cautiously, that I could let someone in without losing Missile. I found the emails late at night, buried under old folders I had nearly forgotten. My hands shook as I read through them, seeing Ethan's plans to manipulate colleagues and clients against me. He actually tried to ruin everything I worked for. I whispered, voice trembling. The betrayal cut deeper than before, but now anger fueled me more than heartbreak. I knew I had to act. The next morning I walked into the office, determination weighing on my shoulders. Maya caught my eye. "You look ready," she said. I nodded. "I am. It's time everyone knew the truth." She smiled faintly, sensing my resolve. "I've got your back." I took a deep breath and went straight to the conference room where Ethan was presenting a new proposal. "Ethan, can we talk?" I asked, voice steady. He looked surprised. Sure, what's this about?" I opened my laptop and projected the emails on the screen. "This is about your so-called backup plan," I said, keeping my voice calm but sharp. "The manipulations, the lies, the attempts to ruin me, they stop now." Ethan's face went pale. That's not." I cut him off. "Not what?" "You tried to ruin me. Your lies, your schemes, they're all here." Lila appeared in the doorway, her expression guilty and cornered. "I didn't know it would go this far," she stammered. "You didn't know?" I repeated, voice rising. "You helped him. You lied to everyone, and now you're pretending innocence." She looked down, silent. "Enough," I said, taking a steadying breath. "I've lived through your betrayal, I've faced your games, and I am done being manipulated." My colleagues exchanged stunned looks, murmuring among themselves. Sophie gave me a discreet nod from the side, confirming I wasn't alone in witnessing the truth. Ethan tried to defend himself, but every word fell flat. "You see," I said, meeting my coworker's eyes. "This is what happens when deceit is exposed. Trust is lost. Respect is gone. And this is the consequence of trying to destroy someone for selfish gain." He sank into his chair, speechless. Lila muttered something under her breath, but no one listened. Afterward, Raphael found me by the windowsill, where I had retreated to gather my thoughts. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. I looked at him, exhaustion and triumph mingling in my eyes. "I am. It's over. Finally." He smiled gently. "You handled that incredibly. Proud of you." I felt a warmth in my chest I hadn't allowed myself to feel in months. I couldn't have done it without the clarity I've gained, and without your support. We sat together quietly for a moment. "It's strange," I whispered. "I used to feel powerless, hurt, but now, I feel like myself again. Stronger. In control." Raphael reached for my hand. "You've grown so much. You faced betrayal, fear, anger, and now you're standing tall, unshaken." I squeezed his hand lightly, a small smile breaking through. I think I'm finally learning to trust, but cautiously. I won't let anyone manipulate me again." By evening, I reflected on the day, the emails, the confrontation, and the faces around me. I survived, I whispered to myself. I reclaimed my life, and I did it on my own terms. The anger still lingered, but it had transformed into a sense of empowerment, a quiet strength I had never known. With Raphael's steady presence beside me, I felt not just vindicated, but capable of facing anything the future held. I watched from my office window as whispers and glances followed Ethan through the hallways. "Did you hear he was demoted?" someone murmured nearby. I didn't turn. I let the words sink in, letting karma work quietly while I observed. Lila sat alone in the break room, shoulders shaking, her face buried in her hands. A quiet sob escaped her lips. I didn't mean for this," she whispered, barely audible. I felt a flicker of satisfaction, tempered by an unexpected pang of melancholy. Witnessing the consequences was not the same as healing the void inside me. Ethan appeared later, face pale, eyes desperate. "Please, I need you to forgive me," he said, voice trembling. I looked at him steadily, letting him feel the weight of his actions. "Forgiveness isn't for you, Ethan," I said firmly. "It's for me when I'm ready. You lost your chance." His shoulders slumped, and I felt no rush of vindictive pleasure, only a calm clarity. He had pushed me to my breaking point, and now, finally, he had no power over me. At home that evening, Daniel bounded into the living room. "You're smiling," he exclaimed, plopping beside me on the couch. I laughed softly. I am. Things are finally right. At least right for me. He hugged my arm. I knew you'd get through it. You're like a superhero. I ruffled his hair. Maybe not a superhero, Daniel. Just someone who learned how to stand up for herself. His grin made my chest swell with warmth. Maya called later, her voice bright on the other end. Dinner tonight? To celebrate how far you've come. I smiled, feeling the gentle support of friends who had stayed when others had betrayed. I'd love that. Thanks, Maya. For everything. She laughed softly. You did all the hard work yourself. I just reminded you that you could. I nodded, thinking about the small victories, the control I had reclaimed, the emotional growth that no one could take from me. The next morning I passed by Lila in the hallway. She didn't meet my eyes, still trembling. I wanted to speak, to say something, but instead I just whispered, I hope you learn from this. She nodded slightly, too ashamed to respond. I kept walking, realizing I didn't need her acknowledgement. My strength wasn't about punishment. It was about my own self-discovery, the boundaries I had rebuilt around my heart. Raphael met me by the elevator later. You okay? He asked, eyes gentle. I smiled faintly. I am. Stronger than I've ever been. He nodded, and for a moment we simply shared the quiet victory. The unspoken understanding that growth often comes from surviving pain. I've realized, I whispered, that revenge alone doesn't fill the emptiness. It's understanding, forgiving myself, and moving forward that really matters. That evening I stood by the window, the city lights flickering like tiny promises below. I survived, I murmured to myself. I didn't just endure betrayal. I learned, I grew, I reclaimed myself. The anger and heartbreak had faded into a quiet, steady resolve. I felt the warmth of community, the love of family, the subtle trust of a new companion. Life was still messy and imperfect, but now it belonged entirely to me. I had become resilient, empowered, and aware that survival was more than endurance, it was transformation. As I closed the blinds and sat beside Raphael, Daniel tugging at my sleeve and Maya arriving with laughter, I whispered softly, This is what victory feels like. It wasn't just about karma, it was about me finally whole. I sat at my desk that morning, tracing the edges of my old journal, the one I had scribbled in during my darkest days. Funny, I whispered to myself, flipping through the pages. All that pain, and look how far I've come. Raphael appeared at the doorway, coffee in hand. Good morning, he said softly. I smiled, a subtle warmth spreading through me. Morning. Want to join me? He nodded, setting the cup down beside mine. We sipped in silence for a moment, letting the quiet settle. You've really changed, he said finally, voice low, sincere. Stronger, calmer, more yourself. I nodded. I had to. The past doesn't get to control me anymore. I've learned what I'm worth. He leaned slightly closer. And you've taught me patience. I never realized trust could be rebuilt so carefully. I laughed softly, feeling a flutter I hadn't expected. It takes time and courage. Later we walked through the park, leaves crunching beneath our feet. I feel lighter, I said, exhaling slowly. All the anger, the betrayal. It's still there sometimes, but it doesn't define me. Raphael glanced at me, eyes gentle. You survived everything and came out wiser. That's more powerful than revenge ever could be. I nodded, thinking about Ethan and Lila, about the hollow triumphs I had once craved. Now satisfaction came from knowing I had grown. A breeze carried the scent of autumn, and I pulled my journal from my bag. I still write, I said, flipping to the last empty page. Raphael crouched beside me, curious. What will you write now? I smiled faintly, pen hovering. Lessons, memories, reminders. Not just of pain, but of strength. He nodded, watching me carefully. That's beautiful. You've turned everything into something meaningful. I paused, letting his words sink in. For the first time I felt my heart open gently without fear. Later that evening Daniel ran up to me, holding a small keepsake I had given him months ago. Look, I still have it, he exclaimed. I laughed, ruffling his hair. I'm glad. It's a reminder that even when things go wrong, some things, love, family, trust, stay. He nodded, eyes shining. You're amazing, sis. His innocence reminded me why survival and growth mattered, beyond revenge or closure. Back at home, I placed the journal carefully on the shelf and retrieved a folded letter I had never sent to Ethan. You tried to break me, I whispered aloud. But I'm whole, stronger, free. I didn't need him to read it. The act of writing had been enough. Raphael leaned against the doorway, smiling softly. You've earned peace, he said. I nodded, a bittersweet calm filling me. And I've earned the right to move forward. As night fell, we sat on the balcony together, city lights glimmering below. Life goes on, I whispered. But now I carry lessons, not scars. Raphael reached for my hand, a gentle, respectful touch. And I'll walk beside you however far you want, he said. I squeezed his hand, the warmth settling into my chest. Thank you, I whispered, for believing in me, and for letting me choose my own path. I closed my eyes for a moment, thinking of the journal, the letter, the keepsakes, symbols of my journey from pain to strength. I survived. I grew. I love myself. And that is enough, I whispered. The past was behind me. The future stretched wide, full of hope, lessons learned, and the quiet song of karmic balance guiding each step.